Bailey's Crossroads is a census-designated place in Fairfax County, Virginia, United States. The population was 23,643 at the 2010 census. Bailey's Crossroads lies at the crossroads of State Route 7 and State Route 244. Geography: Bailey's Crossroads is located at 38.8494 degrees north, 77.12917 degrees west, 38.84944 minus 77.12917. According to the United States Census Bureau, the CDP has a total area of 2.0 square miles, all of it land. The area occupies a broad, flat plain, bounded on the west by Munson's Hill. This unbroken expanse of level ground caused the Union Army to select it as the site of a massive review of troops during the Civil War. The review, which took place on November 20, 1861, involved thousands of troops marching in formation and parading before President Abraham Lincoln. Bailey's Crossroads is formed by the junction of State Route 7 connecting Alexandria, Virginia with the Shenandoah Valley, and State Route 244 connecting the Pentagon and Washington, D.C., with Annandale, Virginia. The most noticeable landmark at Bailey's Crossroads is Skyline Center, a towering group of 26-story apartment buildings and offices built in the 1970s, a branch of Northern Virginia Community College, and offices of the U.S. Department of Defense are nearby. The neighborhood has a large Hispanic population. The largest single store of the entire giant food supermarket chain is also there, while the closest Metro rail station is a few miles away. Metro bus service on the Columbia Pike Corridor has recently been improved. The precise extent of Bailey's Crossroads has never been defined. As an unincorporated community without local government, it has never had a role in defining boundaries. The United States Census Bureau observes one definition, and various parts of the Fairfax County government observe others. Economic development plans tend to include just the commercial corridors and associated areas. Current discussions among the Fairfax County government for revitalizing Bailey's Crossroads economically concern themselves with the Fairfax County border on the north and east, which generally includes all commercial and residential properties generally considered as belonging to the neighborhood, as well as Seminary Road and Carlin Spring Road. The plans include a narrow strip along Leesburg Pike to Glen Carlin Road as a general neighborhood. However, with all facets of life included, the geographic extent of Bailey's Crossroads must be considered to be larger. It abuts the clearly established Lake Barcroft neighborhood on the southwest, with Blair Road, Beachway Drive, Nevius Street and Mansfield Road marking its western proximity. North of Leesburg Pike, its extent is generally defined by Glen Carlin and Carlin Springs roads. Demographics: as of the census of 2000, there were 23,166 people, 8,547 households, and 4,965 families residing in the community. The population density was 11,276.0 people per square mile. There were 8,813 housing units at an average density of 4,289.7 square mi. The racial makeup of the community was 47.90% white, 10.85% African American, 0.54% Native American, 12.37% Asian, 0.09% Pacific Islander, 18.73% from other races, and 9.51% from two or more races. Hispanic Latino of any race were 37.11% of the population. There were 8,547 households, out of which 29.5% had children under the age of 18 living with them. 40.4% were married couples living together. 11.2% had a female householder with no husband present, and 41.9% were non-families. 33.3% of all households were made up of individuals, and 10.4% had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 2.70 and the average family size was 3.40. In the CDP, the population was spread out with 23.0% under the age of 18, 10.6% from 18 to 24, 37.1% from 25 to 44, 19.0% from 45 to 64, and 10.3% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 33 years. For every 100 females there were 106.3 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 106.3 males. The median income for a household in the community was $51,650, and the median income for a family was $51,490. Males had a median income of $35,130 versus $34,265 for females. The per capita income for the community was $24,091. About 10.7% of families and 13.3% of the population were below the poverty line, including 18.4% of those under age 18 and 5.2% of those age 65 or over. History. Origin of name. Bailey's Crossroads has never been part of the corporate limits of Falls Church, Virginia, but the Bailey family was long connected with the community. They were prominent members of the Julian Methodist Church, and intermarried with many Falls Church people. Charlie Bailey moved here from New York State, and on December 19, 1837, he purchased a tract of land on the outskirts of Falls Church, including what is now the intersection of Leesburg Pike and Columbia Pike. On this tract he built a large house known as Bailey's Mansion or Moray. It was reputed to have contained 100 rooms. The mansion sat at a location now known as Durban Place. It abutted Glen Forest Drive, the oldest outlet road to Leesburg Pike. Circuses were part of the Bailey family business. Charlie's son Louis Bailey operated a traveling circus and pioneered the use of canvas circus tents before eventually settling in 1840 to farm land in Bailey's Crossroads. Charlie's nephew George F. Bailey managed several shows, too, designing a tank in which a hippopotamus could be moved from place to place. Another nephew, Fred Harrison Bailey, recognized a potential circus talent in James Anthony McGinnis, later James Anthony Bailey, who united the Cooper and Bailey with Phineas Taylor Barnum's circus to form the Barnum and Bailey Circus, which later joined with the Ringling Brothers Circus to form the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. Perhaps the first of the Northerners to settle permanently in Fairfax County to farm was Louis Bailey, an upstate New Yorker and the son of Charlie Bailey. In 1837, the elder Bailey, who needed a place on which to winter his circus animals, bought hundreds of acres of Fairfax land, much of it on the outskirts of present-day Arlington County in the area now known as Bailey's Crossroads. Shortly afterward, Louis Bailey bought 150 acres of land from his father for $10 an acre. Included in the purchase was a good dwelling house, but there were no other buildings of value and little or no fence. The farm itself, he read later, consisted of cultivated worn-out lands, too poor to produce a crop of grass, or pay for cultivation without manure. Quote, Some of Bailey's neighbors considered the farm the poorest in the vicinity. When he built his first small barn, 24 by 36 feet, they asked him if he ever expected to fill it. The question was scarcely a jest, for Bailey did not make enough hay the first year to winter 2 horses. Nevertheless, the purchase was a wise one. Within a decade, Bailey had a fine herd of dairy cattle and had become one of the more prosperous farmers in the area. Civil War. The opening months of the American Civil War proved to be a disruptive and unforgettable episode in the history of Bailey's Crossroads. For the summer of 1861, when the area fell into an uncomfortable and poorly defined no-man's land between the borders of 2 warring countries, until late November of that year, when the area hosted a massive troop review, anything akin to normalcy was in short supply. Virginia voted to secede from the Union on May 23, 1861. Fairfax County's northern-born residents, many of whom were its most prominent and prosperous citizens, now felt very uncomfortable. The southern neighbors looked upon them with suspicion. In July 1861, the Union Army met with catastrophic defeat during the First Battle of Manassas. The Army retreated all the way to Washington, with the Confederate Army advancing quickly behind it. The Confederates occupied Falls Church and Munson's Hill, overlooking Bailey's Crossroads, and the Crossroads' northern-born residents fled for the safety of Washington. Once Confederates established themselves atop Munson's Hill, they built a crude fort there, and from these commanding heights turned Bailey's Crossroads into a killing field. Southern sharpshooters killed numerous Union soldiers. Violence arose whenever Confederate and Union pickets, or scouts, engaged one another in firefights. It was now impossible to walk the Leesburg Pike without being shot and killed. Indeed, as noted elsewhere on Wikipedia, on Tuesday, September 3, 1861, there was a minor engagement between the sides. The Union would suffer 8 casualties, while the Confederates suffered no casualties. And further, the official reports on the War of the Rebellion indicate that during August 28 to 30 of 1861, a series of skirmishes took place at a location called Bailey's Crossroads. Logic suggests that the writers may have intended to write Bailey's Crossroads. The local balance of power changed completely, and to everyone's surprise, on September 28, 1861, as the Confederate Army silently withdrew its forces from Munson's Hill, Upton's Hill and Falls Church to Manassas, which they fortified. Munson's Hill and Falls Church were located too far afield of reliable supply lines, and a concerted Union pincer movement could possibly choke off supplies, the Southern Command believed. At Manassas they were adjacent to Virginia's interior, and had good railroad and road connections to it. After Confederate withdrawal, the area quickly was reoccupied by Union troops. A significant troop review took place at Bailey's Crossroads on November 20, 1861. Thousands of Union troops marched in formation and paraded before President Abraham Lincoln, the Northern press, and many onlookers from Washington. Army commanders selected Bailey's Crossroads as the site because of its nature as a large, unbroken plain. In order to prepare it for the day's activities, the Army merely needed to remove the split rail fencing separating farms and fields. During recent years, local historians have confused this review with another, smaller review held on nearby Upton's Hill, where events spurred the composition and publication of the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Modern era. After the Civil War, Bailey's Crossroads returned to its pastoral pre-war pursuits. The area remained a rural farming community until the post-World War II years, when a massive wave of development occurred. Leesburg Pike is now a commercial corridor, with apartments and homes to its north and south. A strip shopping center called Culmore, in particular, has lent its name to the apartment development behind it, which is now home to several thousand Latino immigrants. Culmore is now an established place name within Bailey's Crossroads. Close behind Culmore is Lake Barcroft, whose shore is lined with upscale middle-class homes. During the 1960s, as Washington's metro system was being conceived, original plans called for a subway line to extend under Columbia Pike to and through Bailey's Crossroads. As a result of the plan, a massive high-rise complex was built on the former Washington, Virginia airport in the heart of Bailey's Crossroads called Skyline City. Its location coincided with the planned locations of metro stations. Plans for the metro, however, changed. The Western Line was placed along the I-66 corridor instead. Government institutions. Fairfax County Public Schools operates public schools. Glen Forest Elementary School is the primary school attended by most children living in the area, and the local schools feed J.E.B. Stewart High School. Fairfax County Public Library operates the Woodrow Wilson Library in the Culmore area. It has Spanish-language materials in addition to English-language ones. A United States Post Office, located in Culmore, serves the Bailey's Crossroads zip code of 22,041. Although the United States Postal Service uses Falls Church as the primary name of the zip code, mail can also be addressed using Bailey's Crossroads, as many businesses and residents do to prevent confusion with services, deliveries, customers and guests. The state of Virginia and Fairfax County, Virginia recognize Bailey's Crossroads as a valid address for official documents such as property deed, vehicle registration, driver's license and other business. The Bailey's Crossroads Volunteer Fire Department operates Fairfax County Fire Station 10 in partnership with the Fairfax County Fire and Amp Rescue Department. Notable people: Charlie Garner, a former American football player; Franz Stahl and Peter Stahl, musicians; Penny Moore, former WNBA basketball player;